Welcome everyone. Good morning. I hope everyone is okay. Thank you for attending. My name is Gregory O'Dear. I am the Supply Wandsworth Manager for London Borough of Richmond and Wandsworth. And this is our first online launch for the Fit to Bid program. So I just want to very, very quickly give you a bit of an overview of what Supply Richmond and Wandsworth is, what the Fit to Bid program is, what the plans for the Fit to Bid program, business support program is, and just the agenda for today. So what is Supply Wandsworth? So Supply Wandsworth is our localized procurement program that's been delivered by myself as part of our economic development strategy. The goal is to ensure that SMEs, community voluntary organisations and businesses within Wandsworth and Richmond, and also some of our surrounding areas as well, have the information, the expertise that they need to either bid for or potentially win public or private sector contracts in the borough. The idea behind this is that it's a really, really good way of building and strengthening sort of like local business, like our local businesses. It's a great way of building our, the economic and wealth retention in the borough. And it's a really, really good way to kind of connect the big corporate organizations with local suppliers. I always say it like this: if you have a big corporate organization that hires a local supplier, then a local supplier hires local residents, and then those local residents spend in the borough, then we're creating a bit of a perfect circle. So in order for us to support SMEs, local businesses, entrepreneurs to win those kind of public and private sector contracts, we have been working with a business support organization by the name of Branduin, who you can see here. And Branduin have supported us into putting together the Fit to Bid program. And so within the Fit to Bid program, it's a 6-month program, with today being its launch, whereby we will be providing and offering a series of learning webinars, workshops. So in terms of bid writing workshops, how to source and seek out new contracts, how to explode or build up on your bid writing skills. And just understanding what the process is for procurement within sort of like different organizations are. So we have these kind of workshops. We have one-to-one tendering advice and mentoring. We also have learning resources that will be hosted on the Supply Wandsworth webpage. And all of this culminates in a Meet the Buyers event. So that's where we are. That's what the program is all about, and we welcome you to be part of that program. We welcome you to kind of take up this offer wherever you see fit and wherever you think it's relevant to yourself, whether that's in the Meet the Buyers event or attending the Meet the Buyers event, whether it's taking up the one-to-one mentoring offer, or even whether it's just kind of being able to kind of be part of these oncoming webinars, and then learning some of those and being part of those workshops. Our agenda for today, Nowza, if you could move over, please. So our agenda for today is that obviously you've heard from myself, my colleague from Richmond and Wandsworth Council, Will Radford, who is our Policy and Governance Officer. He will be talking about where we as a local authority are when it comes to responsible and inclusive procurement, or how we are considering and thinking about working with local suppliers. You will also hear from my colleague Valerie, who is our category manager from Richmond and Wandsworth as well. And she will talk to you about where you can find some of the information, how you can engage with the local authority, and some of our requirements as a local authority. After this point, you will hear from Roderick Cameron, who is the program manager, and from business Brander in business support, and he will talk you through the Fit to Bid program, how the Fit to Bid program is being structured. He will talk to you about some case studies in terms of examples of other businesses that have been mentored and supported through the same program. And also talk to you about, as he said, as we see here, the large private sector buyers, how you engage with large private sector buyers, some of the ways of thinking around that, and then how you would potentially look at things like submitting an expression of interest. After that, we'll have a Q&A, and we'll talk about kind of next steps. This is your opportunity to ask questions where possible, and we hope that you do. We understand that there will be people in the room that have maybe done this before and have been looking at opportunities in private and public sector kind of bid tendering. We understand that some of you might be completely new to that. So we want to get as much information from you as possible. We want to understand you guys as much as possible. We want to try to ensure that this Fit to Bid program serves to support you and then move you guys into the next stage, which is to look at whereby we can identify opportunities for you and support you in bidding for those opportunities. There's no guarantee, obviously, that you will always win, but hopefully this puts you in a better position. On that note, I will leave it there, and I will hand over to my colleague Will, just to kind of talk about where we are as a council. Thank you.
Thanks, Gregory. Good morning, everybody. It's fantastic to welcome so many local businesses to the session today. Today, I'm here to talk about, it says Wandsworth Council there, but Richmond and Wandsworth Council have both simultaneously produced a new responsible procurement strategy, which is going to run from 2025 to 2030. This is about how the council spends public money, but doing so in a way that delivers more value for every pound spent, particularly with regards to creating social value, supporting local economic growth, and tackling environmental challenges. It was passed back in June last month, and over the coming month or so, we're going to be turning it into a sort of snazzy policy document, which we'll be able to share with everybody. But in the meantime, you're getting sort of early access running through some of the key provisions within that strategy. So before we come on to the slide here, I just wanted to quickly run through why we've produced a responsible procurement strategy, and what some of the key themes are. So firstly, one of the major reasons for producing a new strategy is the changing legislative framework. I don't know how aware people on the call will be, but the Procurement Act 2023 came into force in February of this year, and the National Procurement Policy Statement, which sort of backs it up as a piece of secondary legislation, came in February of this year as well. And some of the key provisions within that, those bits of legislation, include making sure that value for money is delivered not just in terms of efficiency and economy over the life cycle of the contract, but also generating wider socioeconomic and environmental benefits. One really key aspect is around driving local economic growth and strengthening supply chains by giving SMEs and VCSE organisations like yourselves a fair chance to win contracts, and then also to create high quality jobs, champion innovation, maximise procurement spend between contracting authorities such as ourselves and SMEs and VCSEs. It's about making sure that we as a council have the right commercial capacity, capability and standards in place to effectively run tender opportunities, manage contracts, etc., procure and contract manage. And finally, one of the other main areas is to ensure that our suppliers are committed to providing high quality jobs, safe and healthy working conditions, fair pay, opportunity and progression for workers. So we've got 5 key themes for the responsible procurement strategy. Firstly, there's environmental sustainability and climate action. Secondly, there's social value, which has been a part of the procurement landscape since 2012 in this country. Next, there's the council's commitment to suppliers. That's that piece around making sure we've got the right capability, capacity in place. Then there's the contractor charter, which is what we're going to start to ask from our suppliers. It's things like, are you a disability confident supplier? Are you committed to climate action? Nothing too onerous, and we're not making it mandatory in the immediate term, but just something to think about. And the final bit, which we're going to run on to now, is around how we can support the VCS and SMEs and local suppliers in both of our boroughs to help drive some of that local economic growth. So some of the strategic objectives at the top there, number one is maximise procurement spend with SMEs and VCSEs for the first time ever. I believe this is now a requirement of contracting authorities to endeavour to do this. And so some of the key commitments we're going to be looking at are trying to encourage that. The second point is empowering local supply chains to foster a thriving economy. We want to make sure that our supplier base is as empowered and as capable as possible. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, we're aligning with some of the national priorities from PA23 and the NPPS. So we've got a few key commitments right now, which we're working on turning into an action plan. This action plan will probably be published around early September time. But again, a chance for you at the end of this session to maybe ask any questions around it or provide any feedback to help influence that action plan. So 3 sort of main tenets to how we're going to work with SMEs and VCSEs. Firstly, training and capacity building. Obviously, a lot of that is already being delivered through sessions such as this, but we're going to take a more concerted look as well at maybe delivering some training and capacity building around social value, and also maybe targeting the voluntary sector slightly more. The next area is around transparency and accessibility. So this is making sure that smaller organisations have got a really fair shot at knowing when and how to bid for our contracts, council contracts. So we'll be publishing future tender pipelines with sort of a longer tail, hosting more Meet the Buyer events, and making sure as far as possible that when we're putting out tender documentation that we're using plain English. I think we've got an exercise with the lawyers coming up in a couple of weeks to try and work out exactly what that looks like, because sometimes they can be quite complicated and jumbled and legalese, especially if you're from a smaller organisation. And then just finally, fair contracting. So we're looking at aligning insurance and payment terms with SME needs, making sure that our insurance requirements aren't onerous and over and above the actual contract we're tendering for. Splitting contracts into lots. Again, this is entirely in keeping with the spirit of the recent legislation, but also something we were really considering and encouraging doing anyway. If you split a contract into lots, obviously you, as a smaller organisation, can bid for chunks of it rather than the whole thing, making it more accessible. And finally, just being a bit better at providing post-award feedback and guidance, particularly to SMEs and VCSE bidders. So that's a short summary in the time I've been given to do this. We will at a later date, once the strategy is in sort of glossy form, send it out and distribute it to attendees in this meeting and to others in the borough. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them at the very end of the session, as Gregory noted earlier, where there'll be some time for a Q&A. But in the meantime, thank you very much for listening to that short introduction. And I think I'm now handing over to Valerie.
Thank you, Will. Good morning, everybody. I'm Valerie Kuipers. I'm the category manager from the Environment and Development category in Procurement. I'm going to take a fairly practical run through with you on just how to tender with the council. So if you go to the next slide, please. Right. Okay, so the council started using a new tendering portal about 2 years ago. It's called the Atomus e-sourcing portal. I'm hoping these slides will be shared, Gregory, with everybody afterwards, because I've given you all of the links in these 2 slides. So on the first slide, you've got Atomus e-sourcing. There's a link where you can log on and you can search for opportunities with both councils, both Richmond and Wandsworth, in fact. You can also search for opportunities on Contracts Finders, where we also register our tenders. You can also register your details at the bottom link, where it clearly says register. You can get onto Atomus and have all of your details uploaded, and then you will be contacted for any opportunity that is relevant to your business. And you can do that through the bottom link, which is going through the Atomus contract search. But it is vital that you register with Atomus. And if there is an opportunity coming up, it's useful to register in advance so that you're ready to download the tender documents when they come available. So you don't have to wait for a tender to be advertised before you actually register on these sites. You can be on there already with your information. Okay, next slide, please. Right, so subsequent to the new procurement guidelines, which Will has touched on, the PA 2023, it's supposed to help you and to make life easier for you to bid through councils and to register. I've given you a few links there. The first one is the digital marketplace. So for anybody who's IT related or so, you might want to register your details at that link. You also have the Contracts Finder link, which is generally for contracts where you're bidding for contracts between 12,000 and in around 139,000 in value. They're generally linked, advertised on Contracts Finder, and you can, if you register there, you can find any opportunities that are relevant to your company there. Then for the slightly larger opportunities, you can register on Find a Tender service. Now, with the new legislation, you need only register your details once. You'll obviously have to apply for various tenders separately, but your basic details are required to just be registered once, which saves a great deal of admin for smaller companies. So if you go onto the Find a Tender service, you will be able to register your details, and they will be automatically saved for all upcoming opportunities. You'll also be able to go on there to find any opportunities that are relevant to you. And how it works is you can go on and you can use CPV codes, which will then ensure that you get an email anytime a relevant opportunity arises. And it'll be up to you whether or not you bid for it. For works contracts, we generally choose our providers through Construction Line. So if you're not already, and if you are a works-related company, it would be very useful if you could register on Construction Line, because we choose mostly as local as possible SMEs via Construction Line to do our works contracts. We have a lot of work going through our tenanted communal and void properties through housing and regen. If at the end of this you are at a loss or you have any queries specifically to procurement, I have inserted the procurement mailbox address there. You can send any queries in there and we will respond to you. Thank you, Gregory.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you very much. Thank you, Will. Thank you for those really informal presentations and really helpful. I hope everyone's got everything out of that. And as Now's put into the chat, we will be looking at sending out these slides tomorrow. Moving on, I would like to kind of move on to Roderick and just introduce kind of brand and business support. Just to sort of like say and just kind of set the scene, we have been working with Branduin now for the last, let's say for the last maybe 2.5 years, maybe 3 years coming up now. It's like at some point we should have an anniversary party. However, the idea has always been we have worked really well together. We have kind of I've utilized their kind of knowledge, their expertise, and between both of us, we have really kind of built out this Fit to Bid program and really tried to think about how it could serve local suppliers, local businesses. So as I said before, as I said it previously in the beginning, what you have got with the Fit to Bid program is you have workshops that are being developed and that will be delivered to support with things like the bid writing. You do have our Meet the Buyer event that all of this kind of culminates in our Meet the Buyer event, which will be held in October. But it also supplements the work that we'll be doing in terms of creating a supplier directory. That supplier directory is something whereby we're inviting businesses like yourself or SMEs like yourself to input out your details so that we can create a directory that then goes out to the private sector market in the borough. So we want to try and make this an end-to-end program, from having the kind of business support through the webinars, having the learning resources that you can download via the Supply Wandsworth website, having the mentoring, having sort of like the mentoring option and offer as a kind of one-to-one mentoring, having the Meet the Buyers event, and then also having this supplier directory, as well as being able to engage with the likes of Will and Valerie as well. So we're really hoping that this becomes sort of like a 360 end-to-end offer that culminates from the beginning to the end, and we can start to see some results. So from that point on, I will move over to Roderick, and then we'll carry on the conversation. And like I said, if you guys have any questions and answers, hopefully we can answer that at the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Gregory. And the text all in place, the slides are ready to go. Before I get going, my plan is just to take you through what I'm going to take you through and just explain what the next 20 minutes or so entails. Before I plunge into that, I'd be really interested from those that are on the webinar, if you could maybe just use the chat function, is just to let me know why you are interested in this, why you're interested in engaging with bigger private and public entities to win contracts. If you could just take a moment, drop things into the chat, that'd be really helpful to understand why you're here and what expectations you have, because I'll come on to talk about that. Normally I'd just add a little bit of a pause and let you think and do that, but I'm conscious we're tight for time today. So as you drop things into the chat, I'll just explain what's happening in the next 20 minutes, what I'm going to walk you through just to get into the meat of this program, which is a really effective program for those SMEs that really grip it and engage with it and understand how to get the best out of it. So my job today is to start to open up that process for you and to really help you understand what's on offer here, because it is very, very powerful. So just to take you through the plan for the next session is some bit of introduction to me and to Brandwin, where we come from, and our authority in this space and what we've learned and how we pass that learning on. We're then into really how we start to look at so what this process is, what are the component parts of this program, how can you participate, how can you get most out of it, and that's a real mix of permanently available resources online. There's a webinar series, which of course is then always recorded online. We have digital playbooks and written resources, and crucially, and the bit that I really enjoy most is the one-to-one mentoring sessions, which are now open for booking at Fit to Bid. I've also must make sure I cover off the Meet the Buyer events, which are always a highlight. Big procurement people are often hard to pin down. They're busy people, and to have the opportunity to have a physical engagement with them, to meet them, open up that conversation, open up that relationship, is terrifically powerful. So 2nd October, date for the diary, we have a Meet the Buyer event for Wandsworth and Richmond. And I'll explain a bit more about that. Finally, one of the fun things to do is actually just talk about some of the case studies, because this can feel a little conceptual, but it's real. These are real companies we work with in various sectors, finding various different opportunities, often with very similar challenges. So that's part of the fun of doing this. But so I'll talk you through some of the case studies to bring it to life. So I'm just looking at the chat here. Sorry, just a bit distracted for a moment with the chat coming through. Thank you for that input. It is about growth. What's interesting is the businesses that go through this program that learn how effectively learning how to be better businesses, more attuned to their buyers' needs and more capable of selling. And that just strengthens them as businesses and sets them up really well for the long term. It helps them know who they're selling to and why. And of course, the ultimate aim is to start to land some of these bigger contracts. Just in terms of sort of expectations management, those big contracts are fabulous because there's a security to them. They're often substantial size, longer term. They're good for the money. It does take a bit of work to get there. And that's what we'll be doing over the next 3 to 6 months through this program, helping you get fit to make those bids, and also bidding across both private and public sector. The public sector, just by the nature of it, often takes longer to come through. Things are more planned. It takes a while to get there. They're lower risk, so they take more. Often, just you've got to have more points of credibility to get to the final win. So we need to think about getting fit to bid, picking up private contract work probably faster, with the ultimate goal also picking up some public contract work on the way. That's the ultimate goal. So getting onto suppliers list, understanding what people need, learning big contract requirements will definitely cover all that. And if there's things that I touch on and fly on to the next thing that you want me to come back to, stick them in the chat. I'm conscious that I talk about 512 words per minute, gusting up to about 700. So your job is to listen fast today. Right, let's get stuck into it. Let me move the chat bit to the side and let's get going. There we are. So who am I and why am I here? So I've got a history of working with SMEs for the last 15 years as a business advisor. I was a corporate lawyer before that. I worked in investor relations before that. I've been working with Gregory on a Wandsworth program the last couple of years. That's been really engaging. We've run Meet the Buyers events. We've run mentoring sessions with a number of local businesses and really helped them understand what their offer is and how to get on the ladder with these tenders. So, my belief is cutting through the jargon. So I'll hopefully minimize the amount of jargon today, and do feel free to catch me on that on chat, and I'll go back and explain as needed. Brandwin. Brandwin does 3 things: consults, delivers, and assists. So we partner with local authorities, chambers, and others who have this aim and policy intention to get more money circulating local economies. That's what social value and community wealth, these terms are about, is making sure that where possible, local money from Wandsworth and Richmond Council is spent within the borough, with businesses in the borough, employing people that live in the borough, and having a great kind of cycle there to develop local community wealth. So we consult with them to develop these programs, we deliver them to build community wealth, and we do that by assisting entrepreneurs and business owners to run their businesses more effectively. So where are we from? We've been around for a while. Let me just drop the chat window. We've run a number of programs. I'll come on to the various flavors of those in a minute. There's quite a number of us now. We've dealt with 25,000 plus SMEs. I would say hundreds of success stories, hundreds of documented success stories, probably a few more than those, because I think everyone we come into contact with benefits in some way. Our core focus has been London and the South East, but interestingly, we're picking up in the Midlands and North, so really becoming a national organisation. These are our 6 programs. The one that we're concerned with today is this Fit to Bid, the bottom middle one, generating community wealth. But we range from startup through to enterprise. But this idea of supplier development, helping you become suppliers into the local community, is the critical part of Fit to Bid. Big, noisy, busy slide that we're inordinately proud of. This slide has taken 15 years to build. It represents the relationships that we have built with local councils and chambers to get a real understanding of what their needs and the needs of their communities are to develop and deliver these programs. So this is the reach and the impact that we have. And national government, they've approved the Fit to Bid programme. That sits as an approved supplier. So that's a bit of a stamp of approval, if you like, from UK government. All the Fit to Bid programmes sit at fittobid.co.uk. If you're, I know many of you are engaged and be in the process already. If you need to refer anyone, send them to fittobid.co.uk and they click on the Wandsworth one. That might change to Wandsworth and Richmond. I don't know if we do that on the diagonal or half and half. But click on that and that takes you through to register and access the specific resources for this Fit to Bid programme. So how does this all work? What are the key components? What are we looking to drive through? Sorry. To get to a winning bid, I think there's a lot of information and understanding about what procurement teams are looking for. So that's wrapped up in this first section about engaging with procurement. Why would procurement engage with you as a supplier? How do you go about it? Where do you find them? How do you know if you're eligible or relevant or not? To support that, we run an online bid capability assessment. So that's another of many online tools that we offer. We also then go on to developing those once you've identified a bid and you start to have the capability to complete those tender forms. And there is always going to be a bit of paperwork, although councils and other public sector bodies are getting much, much better at understanding the limited time and resources of SMEs to fill those things in, as we heard from Valerie earlier. We then go on to talk about, well, what are your bidding skills and how do you develop those? What's needed? What is a bidding skill? What do you need to develop? What tools, what attitudes, what skills do you need to understand and then get better at? Or do you already have that you just need to leverage? And as part of that, we also talk about this concept of sales enablement. So how do you spot an opportunity? How do you create an opportunity? What should you be scanning and looking out for where your marketing flips into, well, actually, when that happens, there's usually a need for what I do. How do I spot, scan, and then deliver a sales effort against that opportunity? These things are all covered in multiple ways, including more advice on tenders, through online advice, through webinars, and through the one-to-one mentoring. So we cover that often in threefold to get real reinforcement of learning and to make sure you've got permanent access to those skills and materials to help you as your business grows in future. The last bit around this is the Meet the Buyer event, where this all comes together, where you understand why you're engaging with procurement, you know what your offer is, you know you're capable of delivering that offer, you know what opportunities and moments are when your services or your products might be needed. And then you bundle that up with an opportunity to start to build a relationship with an actual potential buyer. So that Meet the Buyer event is critical, the one on 2nd of October. Let me keep going on here. So some dates for your diaries. So let me deal with that bottom one about the one-to-one advice sessions. They are open now. So if you go through this process and fill in the forms, we will get a session booked online, and that's available from now. So there are only a limited number of slots. So my encouragement to you is come out of the blocks, come get booked. We can often set up what you exactly need for your specific needs. And that allows us to have some time for you to go away and do some stuff, maybe me to go away and do some stuff, and then we come back and meet again and we've made real progress. But if you leave that until February, there's limited stuff we can do before March. So get booked in early. And let's get going. The other things to signpost is this webinar series. We've tried to make that much more of a regular series. So 10th, 17th, 24th September. These are Zoom webinars that start to impart those skills. Now, the recording will always be there, but please, it makes sense if you are capable of just putting that time aside to really spend some time immersed in this world, because that really helps leverage your learning. The fourth webinar is getting ready for that Meet the Buyer event and how you pitch. So those are the 4, 10th, 17th, and 24th September, and then into the 1st October. From memory, I think they're all Wednesdays, Wednesday mid-mornings. And then on the 2nd October, we have our Meet the Buyer event. And all of that will come on to a little later. And because you're registered, you will be informed about. So embedded learning access, permanent access to resources to help you. Every webinar that we've done, particularly on the Wandsworth program, but also with other boroughs, Watford and Ealing and so on, they're all on the Brandwin YouTube channel. So if that's there as a permanent resource available to you, and now of course they're all transcripted and all the rest in this magic world of AI. So use those to go back and if that's useful, to find specific topics in there. There's a wealth of stuff there. The one-to-one sessions and how to get the best out of these. So the first way to get value from this is to book it. So get it booked in nice and early. In the background, clearly, a lot of this embedded learning, the YouTube, the webinars, the playbooks and so on, I'll come on to, they're there permanent, and they have to be generic by the nation. This is the opportunity to start to get specific about your industry, your business, your needs, your offer, and to really understand what offer you have that the procurement department of a big private or public entity might want to engage with, and how to sharpen that up. So first of all, get booked. 2 is obviously turn up. And 3 is let's have a really robust conversation about what the pros and cons of your business is. If that requires a SWOT, if that requires a bit of an action plan, we can get through quite a lot in that hour. It's a fast-paced hour, but it's hugely valuable for you as the SME owner or manager, and for me, and actually for Greg and others. Really has that feedback loop of where the issues lie, where the blockages lie, so we can also feed back into these other organizations how their procurement departments need to come to the party as well. And that's been a constant almost feedback loop that's been quietly going on in the background that's been very powerful. We sit down over Zoom or Teams. We run through quite a rigorous agenda, and that is all captured on this, what we call an action card. So a bit of that is demographic information, but the key bits are, what are the actions going to happen? What needs to change? What needs to get done? And those are the key bits coming out. And that gives you a record of what you need to do, and allows us, when we come back maybe for a second session, to see what's been done and what's not been done. There is a wealth of resources for you in the, we've pulled together as an ebook, but effectively it's a series of really useful tools, of checklists, and it's specifically for SMEs. A lot of stuff out there, you can kind of start typing on internet or ChatGPT. Yes, but this comes out of our knowledge. These have all been written in plain English for SMEs looking to get into bigger contracts in their local community with private and public entities. So this is the good stuff. And as you see from reading down that list, everything from how to think about how you evaluate the criteria for a bid. How do you quantify, what is this thing, social value? How do I think about that? Cut through the jargon and you'll find that actually a lot of social value is stuff that you are already doing, or is relatively easy for you to start doing and to measure and quantify. There's tender checklists, kinds of things. It's really, really valuable. So that's a background learning resource you get by being part of the program. Go and access that, download it, use it, bedtime reading. Really recommend it. A lot of work has got into that, and it's hugely, hugely practical and valuable. Flipping into the Meet the Buyer events. So we've run a number of these across various boroughs. The one that we've been had most success with, partly because it's a multi-billion-dollar economy, is the Heathrow Business Summit. And Heathrow's become terrific at requiring its tier one contractors, so the big guys that they engage with, asking them to make sure in their supply chains they have SMEs. So we're not far from Heathrow. There will be opportunities there, and I'll talk about one of the case studies later that's been able to access that. Who do we tend to invite? Meet the Buyer events. Well, it's local authorities, large private sectors, construction and infrastructure is always a big one. And then there are what we call local anchor institutions. So they tend to be people like big hospital groups, you think St. George's, big university groups, I think University of Roehampton, for instance. Those are the people that are on the other side of the desk, if you like, at Meet the Buyer events. So those people we pull together. Just checking the order of the slides. Yes, so this is our provisional list for who we hope to have in October. So clearly there's Wandsworth and Richmond councils there, local anchor institutions. If we can get someone from Twickenham, from RFU there, that would be fantastic. Battersea Power Station are a big economic player in Wandsworth. Pistone Hotel, Hotel One, and of course the Southside Shopping Centre. I'm not sure we can call it the Arundel anymore. That shows my age. Been around South London too long. So these are the people we're looking to get into the room at the Meet the Buyer. So if you can imagine the chance to open up a personal relationship and to start to build from there your potential to sell into these organizations, enormously powerful. Now, the potential of these is to be a massive scrum. So we make sure these are really tightly managed. So there's a pre-booking element to make sure there's a schedule of meetings. And that's speed dating, if you like, between SMEs and those procurements. And to make it relevant, make sure you're meeting the people that you need to meet. There's a pre-booking, so you don't have to meet everyone. You get to meet the ones that you're interested in. And that's all run by a really clever piece of software. On the night, obviously, there are gaps and opportunities, often for an ad hoc meeting, and we are there to facilitate that. But the pre-booking is so important. So in terms of housekeeping, get your one-to-one mentoring session booked in early. Keep 2nd October in your diary, and when the information comes out about that, book your meetings early. First come, first served, get those meetings in and make sure you're maximizing that time. It is so valuable to start those relationships and be able to put a face to a name or an email account and to understand what it is they're looking for, how you can help them, and how they can help you. Expectations is a big piece. Gregory talked about this. I talked about this at the start of my piece, both for the Meet the Buyer event, but also for this program. This is about, this isn't a magic bullet. It gets you there. The Meet the Buyer opens the door, starts to build the relationship. You need to use the embedded learning, the playbooks, those checklists, one-to-one sessions. You need to use that at the Meet the Buyer event into how you quickly shape the jargon is value proposition. It's just shaping how you've got something that they want to buy that they can trust you to deliver. We'll come back on the 1st of October, the webinar about this. So it's about how you pitch, how you show up, being professional, bringing polished collateral. The event's not a one-off. Prepare for the event, research who it is you're going to see, show up well, open up that relationship, and then follow up and follow up and follow up, and use the feedback you'll get to sharpen how you show up with other buyers. So the good bit, the case studies. So splashing chap, Elliot, runs a Greener London. And he had a thriving private sector business, but he thought that public sector businesses, contracts would give him just more longevity and more visibility. Now, the frustration that he's had is just that takes quite a long time. and it's understanding, particularly when you've got a new product, and what he does is living walls, is who's responsible for that? How do you start to navigate? So what he has learned is you've got to be really committed to this. This is not a quick win. This is a very long-term process, and you have to have your story that you can be, something that they want that you can deliver, and you have to tell the story. Now, he's I think he's probably about 18 months into this process. Now, what's very fascinating with him is both at Heathrow and in one of the universities and one of the councils, he now has very active discussions. Now, as he says, he's not about to buy a private jet and retire off the back of this. There's lots more work to do, but we're talking about this, he would not have been able to get to those stages in the conversations without understanding the materials he got from the fit to bid process and that one-to-one mentoring. So it does take time, but you can get to those conversations. Chocolate Films are fabulous. I want to see them tonight. They've just been awarded their Royal Warrant, which is fantastic. They're a 2 million turnover, 20-ish person business who do kind of effectively a social enterprise, but they just moved into a fabulous new studio just kind of in and around a time when their market became very difficult. So we worked with them to understand that they had lots of actual previous connections, how to reawaken those, how to sharpen that word value proposition, how to sharpen up what it is that they offered, how they solved problems for procurement people in public and private sector, as opposed to we do videos. Well, everyone says we do videos, but actually the way they do them, what they've been able to deliver, how they do them, fantastic film they've done around New Covent Garden development, films with the CEO, just really, really compelling storytelling. So we're able to reshape that, and they've been out in the market, and they've now getting some real traction and moving on and making the most of that fabulous 9 Elms facility. Very conscious of time, and I'm nearly at the end of this a little bit, but the London Window Cleaning Company is a fantastic thing that where we spotted an opportunity. There was a new Mount Anvil who worked within the sort of Peabody Trust environment. They had a new development, needed very simple. They needed a window cleaner to look after that, and we were able to make an introduction to help that cleaning company move from just doing kind of residential, where you're just going to go and collect the money, into, well, how do you behave? Well, I've never had to do a contract before. So help them with some tools and some thinking around that to help them get quite a sizable contract that has transformed their business. So there's 3 little local Wandsworth case studies. A number more would come through. I will skittle through these if that's all right. Just in the interest of time. This is a cleaning company. You'd think that was quite generic, but actually, how did they show up? What was their offer that enabled procurement people to go, oh, you've got something particular that I need, and you've demonstrated you can deliver that. So so good for them. They went on to really sharpen up their offer. What's critical is, as you can see from the little wording there, they did the skills workshops. They did the one-to-one sessions. They really engaged in the material. So there really is a sense of you get out what you put in. The pallets yard over at Heathrow have gone from strength to strength. They were a very small business, have managed to understand what it is that Heathrow and people within Heathrow environment need from them, and they have grown massively over there. Really, really interesting case study from Ruth Ann and Ian. And I think they go on, they sort of almost mentor locally what they've learned and moved on. So if you invest the time, this can really take you places. And actually, it's not just about those physical services. This is a newer business. It's a manufacturer of air purification technology based on new technology, but with the fit to bid skills. That has enabled the founder, Dr. Chunli, to start to pick up businesses, start to engage in those commercial opportunities. And it's always lovely when you get a gong. So good for her. So here's the little, if you think, oh, those are particular companies, it's right across the board. Big companies, big enterprises, councils and others, they procure from across the range. And these are people that have participated in our programs and that we've been able to help. So I like that. If they can do it, so can you. If you put the work in, if you make the bookings, if you engage with the materials, the potential really is huge. It's very powerful. So I think that is, I'm as ever marginally over time. I hope that's okay. There's a lot to get through there. The slides will be available. I think this webinar will be available. Can I now hand back to Gregory? I think, Greg, are you going to run the Q&A for us? Because that's me through with my piece.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Roddy. Much appreciated. So for this last little bit of a session, we have a little bit of a Q&A, and I will just kind of pick up on any kind of questions that have maybe come through the chat. If there's anything else that you want to go through, please raise your hands, and then I will kind of read them out. There was a question here to Will from Andy, and the question reads as, regarding award feedback, will that include those who have been unsuccessful in a bidding process, so that they might better understand why and what they need to work on regarding tenders going forward? Will, if you are here, do you want to take on that one?
Yeah, no probs. Thanks, Gregory. Thanks for your question, Andy. It's a tricky one with feedback. So I'll tell you what we definitely can do to start with, and then I will tell you what we're going to look to do to try and build and expand upon that. So when you bid for a tender, for a contract, we will provide feedback to all of the bidders, be they the successful ones or the unsuccessful ones. We will give you scores against the particular evaluation criteria, and we'll provide feedback against those scores. We will also provide how the winner of that contract did better than you in that particular area, if that is the case. So we can do that. What we can't do is tell you for that specific contract how you could have improved upon it. Specifically, we can't do that. What we're looking at doing, possibly going forwards, is taking the learnings from specific contracts, exercises, and then putting them into maybe some generalized training, not specifically relating to the contract. Val, do you want to come in at all?
Not particularly. You've covered that quite well. It wouldn't be fair to tell a company what they could have done, because it might not be possible for any particular company to do any suggested potential offerings that we have. But we can help by providing feedback on how you did, what score you got. But yeah, Will is perfectly right. We can also tell you what the winning bidder scored and how they did it, but we can't provide further than that.
Thanks, Val. So, Andy, we're looking into this to work out what we can and can't do within the sort of regulatory, world in which we live. We need to be very clear, and our lawyers need to be very happy before we make any changes to the feedback process. But we are obviously looking at upskilling, our local supplier base. So it might be that after running a couple of separate tender exercises in different areas, we take some of the learnings from those and use it to inform a general training piece down the line, which doesn't talk at the specific detail of the contract that's been bid for. But if we notice across several contracts that there's a pattern, maybe that certain skills are lacking or need improving, maybe by some of our local suppliers, we can use that learning to inform more general training. But we're looking at how we can give you as much as possible without falling foul of our regulatory and legal framework in which we operate. So I hope that's helpful. But as Val and I mentioned earlier, we do provide feedback to unsuccessful bidders, which should be helpful. Thanks, Andy. I see you replied in the chat. Cool. I think that one's done, Gregory.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, we're coming up to sort of like end. We've got about 3 minutes, so we probably can make 3 minutes back if there's no more questions. The last thing that I will say is, you know, thank you very much, Valerie. Thank you very much, Will. I have slightly kind of put you on the spot a little bit, maybe asking you to do a bit of a presentation. So I really appreciate the fact that you guys have kind of stepped in and kind of showcased that. Next steps for us, obviously, is that this, like we said, this is the launch of the Fit to Bid program. So we really do want you guys to kind of start to sign up to, you know, whether it's the mentoring or sign up to the webinars. And we also would like and really want to push people to sign up their details for the supplier directory so that we can start to build that out. You know, look, there's two sides of this coin here, which is the idea of how do you kind of engage with the public sector, not just the local authority, but the likes of universities and things like that, and understand that procurement process. But also is the idea that through this work is how you engage with the private sector. So with you know, with a lot of the work that I have been doing along the side as well has been looking at developers and how developers use local suppliers, or how some of the big business, you know, the big corporate organizations, private sector corporate organizations that have their headquarters in the borough, how they start to use local suppliers too. So it's a twofold conversation. How do you pitch and you bid for public sector work? How do you bid and how do you pitch for private sector work as well? On that note, I will say thank you very much, and I really do appreciate everybody's time. As I said, Nauza and Brandurin will be sending out or sharing out the slides. Sharing out the slides tomorrow, and then the link for the events and the link for the webinars and the mentoring will come up soon. And please, we're looking forward to kind of engaging with you as best as possible. So as Roddy mentioned, sooner rather than later, if you can kind of sign your name up or sign yourselves in, that would be great, so that we can start to kind of compile all of those lists, compile who we're working with, and start to really spend a lot of time working with you. So on that note, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. And if I don't see you or don't hear from you, have a great weekend.